Good evening, good morning for some, good evening for others. Stephanie Paynes, Steph Paynes, even the more official title. Led Zeppelin, guitarist. How are you?
I'm great. It's actually afternoon for me.
Oh,
I'm somewhere in the middle, but
yeah,
still, it's beautiful out. I'm in London. It rained tiny bit. Now it is stunning, like as if you were in California.
it'll be like that for what, 10
Not,
minutes and then it
which is
changes again,
good.
right?
So, no,
Yeah, right.
just kidding.
Oh. Yeah, I'm ready for vacation too.
Yeah.
Elsewhere. But so you're in Old England, and I'm actually in New England
Yes.
this morning
Yes.
from Connecticut. So we got both
England.
the Englands covered.
Yes.
You've got a busy schedule coming up.
Yeah,
I
we've
was
had
looking
it.
at it. Well, it's been
We've
busy, but I'm saying, but I'm looking forward. I'm not going to the past. No, of course, you're very busy. You are a very busy band, but you look like you're doing a couple different uh set lists too. Looks like you're mixing it up. Let's start
Yeah.
there.
Yes. Okay, let's start there. So I don't know whether it's because we're just masochistic or, kind of just uh hysterical or just giddy or just, overreaching and positive thinking. But we like to do these shows where we're mixing it up all the time. And we're playing set lists that Led Zeppelin played at various
Hmm.
different parts, set lists which are known, concerts which are known. So there are certain little specific musical medleys and
Yep.
things that they did during these concerts that the fans, the super fans, know all about. Um, and we like to play that and challenge ourselves and present these different shows. And we tend to do, sometimes we're doing Earl's Court
Hmm.
one weekend, and then we're playing all the physical graffiti another weekend, and then, we'll do something other, Celebration Day, the concert from the O2. And next year we're doing The Song Remains the Same because it's also
Wow.
the 50th anniversary of that. So that's a very well-known, amazing set list, and we've
Hmm.
done it before, but we'll really do it. So it's crazy because nobody else does that. Nobody does that. It's too hard. It's like,
It. I can
why?
see why you do it though. Well, I can tell you why, because you're a musician and you don't play things note for note, and
Right.
otherwise you're punching a card.
Right.
And
Exactly.
if you're not
And the
excited as a
girls love
musician,
it.
it's not
Yeah.
about you're a musician, so you play music, whether it's you're doing your own version, you're recording, whatever you're doing, you still have to do it and feel excited about it every day. Or what's the purpose of being creative in the music is arts field?
Right.
You might as well just go work in a factory and just
Yeah.
get life insurance and a 401k and take the hit on that and find a balance. There's nothing wrong with that stuff, but I'm saying you get those perks. Being a musician, you
Yeah.
don't get all that other stuff.
Right. Exactly. No,
So
I mean, I think it
excitement.
also comes back, Sean, to this idea ultimately that, you know, we're not really considering ourselves, we never have considered ourselves a tribute band, meaning we don't impersonate the band, we don't play, you know, exactly the same notes they play, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. But we use the music as a channel. And you and I have probably discussed this before. And because of that, we love to have those moments where there's lots of improvisation in these concert shows, and we just take it out. But we take it out as us
Right.
in the right context, playing appropriately. Like I wouldn't start playing Jimi Hendrix riffs and,
No.
but it is so much more rewarding and challenging. And if you're at that kind of musical level, which, these girls in the band, I mean, they're just incredible musicians yeah, it's really fun and it really feels much more artistic, like you're saying.
Has it, you've obviously had some membership changes over time.
Yeah,
You are you are steering the ship, the captain of the ship, or you know.
most of the time.
But but like I said, when you go to work, coworkers change all the time. It's not always a perfect fit for other people at certain points in their lives. Nothing good or bad. It's life. That being said, as musicians, even more challenging to find somebody to live that lifestyle and be a musician and have other family things going on because music does not subscribe to the family lifestyle
Correct.
as of events of birthdays and this and that and holidays. It doesn't do that. And sometimes that can make or break just having members. With your schedules, do you try to find a little bit of a balance with that because the big picture, or is it like we really have to all kind of succumb to the schedule of what this is what the machine is?
Well, at this stage of the game, uh, we all have our home lives and family lives, and I have my own family. Uh, but so we try to work around that. Like we try to plan for it. Our agent knows when there are blackouts and we discuss it. And, unless there's a super important opportunity or
Okay,
show.
so there is something.
Yes, there definitely is. I would say that early on in the band's
Hmm.
trajectory, when it was going like mad and just took us all by surprise at the rate and the,
Yeah.
velocity and the intensity that it was zooming ahead and exploding. That was a time when those things got sacrificed a lot more.
I
And
think it's
it had
common
an
though, right?
effect. It had an
It's common
effect.
with all early bands though, kind of establishing
Yeah.
yourself.
Yes. Right.
It's like young growing
And if
pains. It's
you're
it's a
in,
thing.
you're in, man. If you're going to be in, that's when, ultimately the first lineup change kind of happened then. And this is
Yeah.
very common too, because when a band suddenly starts to really become successful and the touring ramps up and there are agents and there are business managers and there's all this stuff, people either embrace it and go with it because it's really what they want and feel deserving of, which is,
Right.
to get me started on that, or they check out. They find some way to check out. They just can't handle that. And a lot of new bands break up and they never recover. You hear about it all the time. And so we had, that happened a few times, but it separates the girls from the women. You know what I'm saying?
You can say that. I can't say that nowadays. I'll be chased out of town with a pitchfork. Um,
Cancel me,
yeah.
what the hell?
No, I'm saying you can say that.
Yeah, you can say it.
So nowadays, I don't know what I can say anymore. I'm just safe in my basement. I, but
The they from the
I,
them.
yeah, I agree that the challenge is that, and I think there's some of the ironies of rock and roll also is like you want to be an artist, you want to be free to do what you want, but once you're a successful musician, you make very little of your own decisions because of
Yeah,
scheduling. So you
right.
kind of lose that freedom. Such an irony. Just like just like when we were growing up, all the albums, all this, it was like all the songs about being on the road and lonely and the drug abuse and the alcohol abuse and all these affairs and falling apart marriages. Literally, those are all things that they took on. They could have just been musicians and had a
Yeah,
schedule. Like you literally brought on your self-inflicted songs. I mean, they're great
right.
songs, but if you look back now as an adult, you're like, you really didn't have to do that. You could have just gone and saw some fans that were going out to dinner. You didn't have to really overdose.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, that's, the lifestyle and the all of that excess and I mean, it's a real thing. It's a real
oh, it is.
thing.
I'm not saying it's not
And
wrong. I'm just
people
laughing
who are
because a lot of it was
who are
imposed.
drawn to this kind
Yeah.
of pursuit sometimes are those people that have, they're artists. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of angst. And it starts, these channels start to open up and your opportunities open up and you go wild or whatever. And I get it. I mean, Led
I
Zeppelin
couldn't
did it.
survive it. Young me, I
We
wouldn't even
did
be here
it.
now. I,
We
I
did
wouldn't
it early
survive,
on. I'm just
you
like,
know? Plus self-medication. There's a lot of reasons why. I'm just laughing at the irony as an adult looking back. I could just tell everybody's life, my own life. I mean, all the
yeah,
stupid
yeah,
decisions. So I'm laughing at that's kind of it's hard because like there's such a black and white yin and yang of everything in rock and roll. You want this, but then it leads to this. It's not, it's hard. It's hard for you guys to do that, to really put the time in. I don't think people realize that. And of course, there's more things have changed now, more like artists need rest, the financial, mental health breaks. It's the world's come around differently. But yeah, you guys are so I can't believe how huge you are. Like it doesn't surprise me, but it surprises me. No, not because of who you are. I'm surprised at any band at this
Yeah,
point, unless your last name is rhymes with Mariah Carey. Like because like the old model is gone and it's just a sea of everything. So to be so successful and still keep your neck above the ocean there is amazing. Like it's not just talent. You know what I mean? It's like you were in the right spot and everyone knows you and you've well, it's talent because you've maintained it, you didn't, whatever, but it stayed and no
yeah,
social media's washed it or buried you.
yeah. Well, it that was a lot of work. To stay was a lot of work, and at times near impossible. I mean, I'm could fill a book with it, and I sort of am at this point. I'm writing a kind of retrospective photo book, which will be done soon. But I've got my own novels I've written. But it was hard. It was very hard to keep the band afloat for that long. It's 21 years already or something. And what began to happen is there are so many of these bands now. I mean,
Mhm.
I it just suddenly this explosion of Led Zeppelin tribute bands everywhere. Now, the more the merrier. Let's keep the music alive. Great. Jimmy's
But
laughing.
there's good and bad. There's good and bad podcasts. When I started the
But
podcast, not the first one, 5 years ago, now everybody seems to have the same mantra of, I get it. But there's a few of them that I would die in a hill for that. I think these guys are great and I want to support them. But then there's about 50 other ones that
yeah,
you're like, you're a copy of a copy of a copy. It's
right.
missing something. You're missing the main ingredient.
Right. Well, because they don't, most of these bands are commercial enterprises or they love the music and they just want to go out and play it, but they play it in a, how do I say this? And of course it's not everybody, but it's a lot because to understand really what Led Zeppelin were doing and to try to do what they were doing, I mean, it's near impossible. It's near
Yeah.
impossible because what they were doing was an alchemy. It was a mysticism. It was a combination of players. And it was not about the notes. If anything, it was about the infinitesimal timing between the notes and how that groove and how those spaces were filled by each other in a certain way, and about the way that they played it with with a certain abandon, that was scary. I mean, at that level, you just throw yourself in and who knows what's going to happen. And you have to
Mhm.
be, it's like a jazz cat, you got to be in that space. And that's what Led Zeppelin were doing. And my goal, and I think the goal of everyone in the band now, and for most of the years, most of the girls that have been through the group, is to be a band like they were. Not to be them, but to be that kind of band and to play their music, certainly. But to be that kind of band is to be the greatest rock band in the world. So, it's like, okay, balls for miles, but why not? If you're going to do it, like, do it. If you're going to do it,
Yeah.
get it and do it right. So, I don't know whether people just don't want to put that much work into it or have that kind of band group that they're in, or whether they understand really what it is. I
I
think the
think there's different
latter is
perspectives
more
is what it is.
common. I think the latter
Yeah.
is more common.
Well, I also think that the audiences don't appreciate it as much are going to know the difference. I mean, I've seen a lot of probably more Zeppelin style bands. I just saw Jason come through not
Yeah.
that long ago, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
and Close
Close
Your
your
Eyes. I thought it was
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I do want to say I think the singer seemed so chill and he seemed kind of dressed down compared to the guitar player who's phenomenal.
But yeah,
I
Mr.
mean, the
Jimmy.
band's good. They're all talented. You can't knock them. I mean,
Mr. Jimmy is famous in Japan. He's
oh
a
yeah,
Jimmy Page impersonator. I
I
mean,
think he
that's
made. Yeah, he
that's who he
clearly.
is.
Yeah, I think he actually made a mistake on something. I'm like, oh, that must have really bothered him more than anyone else. Because I don't care. I mean, you're a musician. I don't think anybody else cared, but I'm sure as a musician,
Take
he
on
probably.
what though? Like what kind of mistake? You played the wrong note?
he played something, yeah, something wrong. I was like, oh, it stood out more to me. No, but I'm saying for him, I thought, oh God, I hope he doesn't
For
beat himself.
him, it would be a
I hope he
mistake.
doesn't beat himself up over it.
It would be the commonplace thing that would
No,
happen.
that's my point. Is I'm thinking
Like,
I'm thinking, oh, I hope he doesn't beat himself up over it all night because this was a fantastic show. Like I don't think, but I know musicians gonna be like, oh my God, I ruined it. I'm like, no, it was awesome. You
yeah,
know, um,
you're getting
it just
London
seemed this
out.
event seemed very chill though, like not as energetic
Right. So,
visually. It was so,
because
but some
I
bands are
don't think,
different.
yeah, they don't do, look, I'm not sure anyone does what we do. I mean, we think we're Led Zeppelin when we're on the stage. I mean, we just are as committed, I think, by in this weird way. And it's just become the hallmark of what we do.
Mhm.
And I agree with you that not everybody totally understands it. I do think that when people come to see it, they're shocked because they don't see that. They don't see what
I
we're
think
doing.
you're the essence. I think you guys do hold the essence in a way that might be different than a very good band. And I won't knock any bands because if you go out there working and playing, bless your hearts.
Right, exactly.
And
Everyone has
but
their
then there's
thing.
a certain nerd level of music where I can appreciate each level the band takes up each time I see them. I'll see a couple, but I can appreciate, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Most people are just happy to hear the songs.
right,
But I'm not the guy that goes out to a bar and hears a cover band also anymore.
right.
So if I go out and hear a band that's doing other music besides a jam at the end of a band session, it's going to be kind of special.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a difference between having fun and hearing the songs and having an emotional connection to a group. I mean, when a group is playing in this uber emotional way and connecting with the audience, and you're on this adventure together, maybe not even knowing where you're going, in Dazed and Confused this time,
Yep.
um, it's a different kind of I guess just artistic result. I mean, people come away from it feeling touched in a way that they wouldn't if they were just, hey, that was great. All the songs were cool. They played them just right. And all that, wow, I love that. And oh my God, Kashmir was spot on. Great. That's all good. But I think that's not the reason people like Led Zeppelin. I
No,
think
there's a lot
sure they
of
Kashmir was spot on the record, not always live, but the reason they like Led Zeppelin goes way beyond that. And I just, it is a thing that the great bands, the great musicians and artists have that is almost it's beyond words, really. You can't explain what it is. You just have to try to capture this, lightning in a bottle.
I
Um,
think that's exactly why I was surprised that Chase's band was just more chill because
yeah,
the energy of the music makes you feel like the stage. Like if I was doing, like I feel like I'd be like at least, you know what I mean? Much more mobile because the music's so
exactly what you
explosive.
mean.
So to hear the music and see them, and sometimes as a musician, you can't move around. You can't do like a lot of Zappa music. Drizzle Zappa, you can't run around when Drizzle's doing Frank Zappa
Right.
and do this. You can't.
He
They're
would
not a
like
performance band.
he would yell at you, stand still, for God's sake.
Right. So
Focus
I
on the
get that.
music.
There's a thing.
Yeah.
But to hear that, I'd never seen them live, and it's not a negative about them. To me, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how they're sitting still because the emotions to not move. I mean, they look at it differently too, but I'm thinking, oh my God, that's to me why I think it felt weird because of that. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just gonna
No,
say no comment and let you discuss because I don't want to get into that kind of, but yeah, all I'll say is that is the thing that we understand and what matters to us. And it is very hard to run around that stage with a guitar below your pelvis, okay? Playing those riffs. I can tell you, if I pulled the guitar up about 4 inches or even three, do you know how much easier it would be to play? It would be like, oh my God, this is like, now maybe I should do it, but you know why I don't do it? Because it's sexy.
it
And
wouldn't
it
look as cool
it
though.
turns me on. And if I'm turned on, then the crowd is turned on. Okay. It's like it's all part of the zeitgeist of the whole thing.
Mhm.
And I feel like, it's just that's where it becomes really um intense for us, and not and beyond fun, but really meaningful in a
Mhm.
way. And when we play with each other and stuff happens, we're throwing things back and forth. I mean,
Right.
that's the holy grail, man. That it doesn't get better than that in a band. Cream,
It's
whoever those bands that had it, if you're into the Grateful Dead, whatever. I mean, that's not so totally my cup of tea, but they did that. There were
I've
these
learned to
bands
respect
and
them.
they're,
I've learned to respect them in the fans,
yeah, yeah,
but I
yeah.
could
I mean,
never
it's
really get into
right.
appreciating a few songs.
Right. Yeah, there are some songs I really enjoy too, but it's not my thing. But that is kind of what they did. And I think their audiences follow them to, the end of the earth because of that, because they're tuned into that
I think,
connection.
I mean, if you think back, I mean, those are also back the time a lot of bands could go with jamming a little bit. I do
Yeah.
think Zeppelin had the jam in them, which sets them up a little different than other rock bands.
Mhm.
They had a little bit more jam into them. So this feeling of being the spontaneity, they all had the bluesy background and stuff. So the clubs, so it kind of carried over into song structure. And I
Yeah.
don't think I really appreciated it. I mean, that someone's the kind of band I think you appreciate at different levels as you get older. Like when I first heard them, I dug them, but I don't think I understood. I appreciate Jimmy's different music, but I don't think I understood his songwriting quality the same way I do now, especially when I start playing guitar, because sometimes his notes don't seem as tight when he's the fingering. And as like a younger person, you hear other musicians back then, you're like, that doesn't feel as tight. Not sloppy, but it feels like all over the place. Then you start playing it and you realize it's about the space and how he's playing those notes. So it's actually a different level. It's not only is it not this, it's above this. But I don't think I don't know if you always get that from a regular perspective. You know what I'm saying?
You mean whether people really appreciate that?
Yeah, the real level, because on some level it feels like, oh, the good riffs are simple. But to me, I just didn't get it. And maybe it's just me. But when I started playing it and then like learning some of the riffs and how great they are on such a different level of just being a cool sound,
Right.
how they're built, and then why they're being played that way. And if you play it the other way so stiff, it's not going to sound the same. It sounds like not Zeppelin. There is a certain looseness that I think a touch, and you got the words for it, not me, but there
Well,
is
that's what,
something.
yeah. Well, that's what I was saying, that it's the space almost between the notes more than the
Yeah.
notes. This is it, exactly. There is a feel that to say it's just behind the beat is not, it doesn't explain it enough. But there is this way that they had of milking a note, and
Yeah.
and Bonham, I mean, he was number one king prince of that. That's why they can't replace him, right? I mean, his playing had that breath in it and that space, and Jimmy could fill it in. But the tempos were all kind of all over the place, and the notes were, so what if they weren't super precise, and
But it
but
fit. It was like a wave. It's like they're all in
I
this.
mean, like technically, stunning, although
Right.
some of it is, but not that wasn't his goal. Jimmy, I think, I don't know the quote, but he said something like, I don't deal in techniques, I deal in emotions as an artist. That's not, in other words, that is not what I'm selling. I'm not selling technique
Right.
here. Okay. And, whether could he have sat down and learned to play like, Eddie Van Halen or something, or one of those guys? I'm sure, sure. Was he interested in doing it? Pff, hell no. And honestly, I'm not either. I mean, unlike Jimmy, I mean, I should practice more probably, and I would be even better. I would be cleaner and probably make fewer mistakes or whatever. But I guess, and that's no excuse. Like I should, but it's just that where my deepest interest lies is not in that.
Mhm.
It's like I don't want to just be the greatest guitar player in the world. I want to be a guitar wizard. I want to turn you on. I want to
Yeah.
make magic happen with the guitar. I want to maybe make you cry or make you get all sexed up. But I'm never going to be the greatest guitar player in the world. And I think if I had to speak for Jimmy, I can. But, I would bet maybe small part of my farm that he would agree with that because I mean he's a genius, the guy. I mean he's an amazing musician, first full stop, whether he's quote unquote sloppy or not or whatever you want to call that. But his arrangements and the way he builds that guitar army in a track, in a piece of music is just it's crazy good. It's just
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. Like to me, it's like a 12-year-old when I'm hearing it and hearing all rock at once and
yeah,
trying to quantify everything in my head.
yeah,
It didn't feel the same.
right,
Clearly, I don't think that's now, but I didn't get it
right. Well, that's okay.
as a child. But I'm saying that's to me, I didn't get it. And I wonder how many other people that don't play instruments that just like it go, yeah, he's good, but this part here, they never got past it because it wasn't their scope.
See, I think it was maybe, but I would say first of all, Led Zeppelin was hugely popular. I mean,
Oh yeah, they
especially
still are.
in the 70s, they were the top of the, and I would venture to say it might be the opposite way. I would say that people didn't really understand what was happening
Okay.
there, but they were completely enthralled with it. And they didn't even know why. Maybe, it's like because they're not musicians or they didn't, I mean, I think musicians, it just depends. If you're one of those, there were so many different types of players, and they all have
Right.
so many players have different opinions and think so and so is great and so isn't, and so really is the technique, and so doesn't. I mean, it's all you know, it's
Well, that's
always
what I meant as a child here down in the 80s, even. Like to me, I was like, oh, trying to understand everything. And
yeah,
then you make your own judgments. You're like, okay, it's different.
yeah, yeah. But then you
It,
change, right? Your opinions
yeah.
change.
My opinions changed. They have quite a bit actually as I've gotten
Oh,
older.
well, that's good. You hear
Thank God
things
for having a brain.
You finally got smart, Sean. You
You know,
finally got it.
it's funny because I actually no, but that was the one thing I didn't get. I was like, I don't understand. He's so good on this thing, but on this part, it's not as crisp. And I never understood it. I didn't take away from him. Still thought he was like one of the best guitarist players I've ever heard because his body of work and what he wrote. Because to me, a good guitar player is about composition. So I never rated a guitar player as being like Yngwie Malmsteen. I mean, to me, he's technically good, but I don't listen to him because I can't listen to that. So
Right,
I'm not dogging a musician. I'm saying, but to me, that's not how I rate my guitar players. Eddie Van Halen writes his own music. I liked. Jimmy Page did. Tony Iommi. These are all good artists because they're compositions of their songs and they use their tools to their songs to always serve the song and not be the Souls
right,
never did that. Went over the songs,
right.
so I was
It's
always there. But his technique, I think I learned that a lot with a lot of guitar players when I started playing. Though the technique was even light years beyond what I thought it was. Not only was my hands not good, but just mentally, I didn't understand it because you weren't working on the music of it.
yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, you look, the even after all this time, I'll play a song or listen to it and realize, oh shit, I'm playing this the wrong way. Like, and it could be that, for the longest time, here's an example. And this was a revelation because we were recording, we did a re-recording of the entire first album. We did Led Zeppelin one. It was our second album, but it was but it was Led Zeppelin's first album, and it was kind of like a musical PhD experience where we
Right.
had the luxury because of the producer we were working with of just spending days and days in the studio, and he had all the vintage gear so we could use all the same gear and we could find the same exact tone. There are, a fuzz tone, right? There might be 10 of them, and we try each one because they all sound different because their circuitry is all different.
Get lost doing that. I'm surprised you're still not there doing it right now.
It got so crazy. It was like ear training beyond. but there was so we're trying to record communication breakdown, and I put down the track. The track's fine. But as we're listening to, and a lot of times during these sessions, we didn't know whether it was without the vocals, we didn't know whether it was the guys or us. We would A B it.
Mhm.
Sometimes we couldn't tell who was who, which was amazing. But communication breakdown didn't sound right. I'm like, why? There's just something. I don't know. Is there some little thing? And it's not the notes, it's not the tones, it's not. Finally, after a day or two, who knows, we I realized that there's an upstroke, not a downstroke. Da da da
Um,
da 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 da, right? And if you don't
Nuance.
hit that upstroke, it's just not going to sound quite right. So there's stuff like that, which did Jimmy do it on purpose? I don't know. The wizard is just trying to trick us, maybe, but it is the deeper you get in, the deeper the hole gets.
I'm surprised at this point you're like,
Well,
look,
it's
I'll
fun,
give you $1 million, Jimmy, to sit down with me for like 5 hours so we can talk about these songs. When I get to these points, I need to talk to you. I got some questions. Like that would be my sole goal in life would be like, I got some questions for you about your songs, you
And
know?
he love it. Yeah.
You know, I, I think, well, I laugh at this. One thing I say, I never appreciate songs until even songs I don't like until you're playing guitar. Like I'm like, if I hear another Eagles song, not knocking a band because I'm not that guy. Personally, I don't need to hear it in the elevator anymore or wherever I'm at. But for some reason I played it for something. I played a riff and I was learning it, whatever. And I go, oh, the chord's kind of fun. I get why it's fun. More fun to play than to hear. That's
Yeah.
one thing. And I think a lot of guitarists I've talked to go, I totally agree with you that. I don't want to hear that song anymore. But man, it's fun to play.
Right.
That's an interesting thing. And I also think one thing I've heard a lot and I hear lately is when it comes to songs and technique, why does that almost the same? It's because there's a note, you can play a note here and then here on the neck. Technically they're similar, or they're the same, sort of. But there really is a nuance where it's not really the same, especially where they
They're
go on
not.
the January. And I think that's lost on 98% of musicians. And I saw talking music the other day brought it up. I'm like, that is just spot on. But I don't think that's ever considered because you can transpose here and here. For guitars like me, that's super. But
Right.
if you're performing and recreating at your level, there is a difference.
There's definitely a difference. And basically what, I think we're sort of circled around because to the original idea of why some bands sound a certain way or whatever is that I think you really have to be able to hear it. Do you know what I'm saying? You
Mm.
have to be able to hear what's going on in a very um deep way, and to try to work out the puzzle, and to know when something doesn't sound right and when it does, and try it's just, and not everyone is either that interested in doing that, or they can't
Hear
really
it.
tell the difference. Right, they
Some
can't.
ears just don't hear it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what
There
cuts
are
the
people who
difference.
don't hear feel. They can't play with feel.
Right.
I don't, no matter how long they listen to it. They listen to this music for years and years and years and try to play it, and somehow they just don't ever get the 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 groove. And that to me is stunning. It's like, how could you play it like that? But it's
Because I
just
can't, okay? Because I'm not that good.
well, no, because I'm not
No, I
talking
know.
about you.
I
I
I'm
never
just
even
teasing
heard
you.
you play.
The
No,
coffee's kicking in. I'm just kidding with you.
yeah, that's funny. But yeah, it's just because it's an awareness that's not really there. It's like they just don't hear it.
Right.
And maybe they can be taught to hear it, but someone may have to point it out and try
Mhm.
to try to, but listen, we all bring things, I guess, to the
I
music.
think, but it's important to say these things because it's not a negative to anybody else. This is discussing some of the positives that you bring to it,
Right.
and by expressing there's a difference because there are other bands other Zeppelin bands I've gone and I'll enjoy, and they do it differently, and they're great musicians and it's great, and I've got nothing, and they're very talented musicians in their own right, and they do their own stuff. I love them. I love them. But there is just a difference that we're talking about with you guys that makes it, you know, not in the same stratosphere as far as what other bands are doing to you, you know.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
that's I think that's my
Now,
roundabout. But
please
you know, I'm not linear though
broadcast
either.
that all over the world, will you please?
Yeah, right. Well, I just saw the podcast version of this is actually hitting charts around the world. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Because I mean, there's a lot of big podcasts out there. So it was up in the
See?
international, yeah. So it's kind of cool. So you
See?
never know, people might
Right.
hear it. So also, do you think now people don't know you're also done a lot of journalism and writing throughout your whole life, and as you're doing more now? I want to touch on that though, because we don't really talk about that before. But I
Okay.
also want to say, I think doing rock and roll journalism and everything else, and then coming into it and being on the other side and coming in knowing that experience. Because I always think like if a band's like bands generationally, I'm gonna step back one thing that I think I've learned even as much as I knew. Bands from different genres, like people that grew up on Led Zeppelin, Cream, AC/DC, all those bands, and then do cover bands. And then those are a lot of those guys and women are bands we've loved because they're songwriting. But there's a hole in some of the bands that have gone a little bit after that because hearing those bands and doing those cover songs is like rock and roll college to me. How they're wrote.
Yeah,
Less of
yeah.
those songs are being done the way written to the now. So it feels like it's a thinner version of songwriting for rock and roll to me.
Uh-huh.
I almost feel like there's something in those early bands in the 70s that a lot of the, even the 80s rock bands grew up on. You know, Eddie's like, I like Eric Clapton, I grew up on Cream, because there's something in the substance of those bands that gave you something. And I don't know what it is yet in my mind to quantify that. But I think that's kind of missing also in some of the newer rock bands. Um, but I was gonna say,
Yeah.
but as also as a journalist for you though, knowing that, you know, intuitively, but also writing about artists and seeing it, how was that played into you being in a band yourself later on? Because like you had the knowledge and you were more mature going into this, which is way the opposite of everybody else.
Right.
So you
I
had
go
some extra tools in your
just
toolbox
going
going into it.
backwards. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I cannot tell you what a great skill and tool that was. And I'm a deep believer that, and this is something I came to a little later when I stopped bemoaning my fate about what choice I made with my life or this or that. Everything you do, I deeply believe comes into play and will be at your service at some point. And that's the path. So for me, I mean, I've always been a writer ever since I was, little.
Mhm.
As long as I've been playing guitar, I was just a compulsive writer my whole life. And my parents were writers, and I wrote, I mean, I was clearing out their house. I think from camp, I wrote a letter to them every single day, a long letter, and sometimes to my mother and my father, two separate letters. And then I wrote to the whole family. I mean, I wrote to the aunts and the uncles, and I was just writing, it was just nobody
So were
else
you
did
doing anything
that.
at camp? I'm like,
It was
did you
at
leave your
camp.
room?
I'm writing these letters. So at any rate, it's like I've always been a writer. So it was the other thing I did, and I still do. But just regarding how being a journalist and being on your end of the microphone for so long helped me when this band really started to break through. There was a lot of press, like a
Mhm.
lot. And it was 20 years ago, so there was still newspapers, like radio stations, and big
Newspapers. You
long
read a good newspaper, you got
articles
black
and
fingers when you're done.
in spin and in newspapers, whatever. So we were talking to journalists a lot. And as the leader of the band, I was talking a lot, but I knew what was going to happen to the story after we finished an interview, right?
Mhm.
I pretty much knew like that maybe a fraction of it would be printed, as it were. And I also knew how to give a headline. I also knew how to say something
Yep.
that would get a headline or get something, just because I was always looking for those things myself in an interview.
Now
And
these are attention grabbers, not clickbait nowadays. Is a huge difference, and I struggle with that too because I don't like clickbait. That's why
yeah,
what you're talking about is something to draw the eye in that's
right,
factual. But
right.
oh, but a catcher, like a
Just give them some kind of
right,
quote
but it's not the
that
same as nowadays. So I want people to
right
understand that are watching this because
where they're
each
like,
generation is
shit,
different.
I'm going to use that, right? I
Right.
was very good at that. But I
That's
more,
hard. That is really hard.
maybe even more importantly, and this is not always the case, but many times I knew what not to say.
Hmm.
That really helped me because as a journalist, I sort of became a rock journalist as it were kind of by accident, like by when I was living in England a whole bunch of years ago, and I marched into the NME. You know, I was 20 years old and dripping wet because I just got fired from some job, and I thought maybe I could, pour tea at the NME or something, right? Because I was
Yeah.
reading and I was all like feeling sorry for myself. And they let me in, and I got to speak to a journalist, and he took the piss out of me. And I was like, I know England. And he said, "Well, so you want to be a writer?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that's what I want." I was going to pour tea. So that's how I started. I went out and wrote something, and they published it, and that was the beginning. But anyone who knows anything about the NME, especially in those days, I'm not sure it's so much like that now. The
Yeah, I
whole
haven't listened to it as much now. I used to though, because it just
The
get over,
whole idea
more.
of the NME was like it was, yes, it was about music, but number one, it was about who was writing about music. It was all about the
Yeah,
writer, and it was
very
all
opinionated.
about your personality and what you were going to say and how you were going to diss this band and, fool this band, whatever, So everyone at that paper was just super sharp and cynical and like, looking for anything to latch onto that they
Yeah,
could, you know,
love and hate.
so and so said this. Here's the headline. Ha ha. So I was super seasoned to not say certain things because
Hmm.
I thought, oh, they're just going to pick up on that. And, like, for example, with the spin article, I don't know if there was a big spin article that came out that really changed the trajectory of the band in 2005. And Chuck Klosterman, who's very, well-known pop culture writer
Yeah.
and was an editor at Spin, he did a story on female hard rock tribute bands that seem to be
Okay.
in the ether. And there
I
were a
didn't see this
couple.
because I gave up on media for a long time because it
This
started
is a
getting so
long time.
trashy. Well,
So
I'm really sad about
it's
it.
you should I could send it to you.
Oh yeah, I want to read it now. Oh,
Okay. So but he interviewed uh a band called Hell's Bells, I think. No, AC/DC,
it sounds
another
like okay, yeah.
AC/DC and Cheap Chick.
I love puns. So I'm a dad. I can't get it.
That was great. And us.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you read the article, you'll see. But in one of the bands, the girls were talking about how they were, bringing their kids to soccer games, that they were
Mhm.
basically, well, we're just soccer moms. And that Toyota or some car company gave them a car so that they would publicize that they were soccer moms and they were, musicians or
Yeah.
whatever. And they said, but don't print that. Don't tell anyone. But, they gave us a car and because we're soccer moms.
And of
What
course,
do you think the first thing out of what do you think the first thing he wrote of
that is some
that
crappy
band?
journalism too, though. Like
I
if an
mean, it's
artist tells you
like,
not to do
how could
that,
he resist? Like, and when I met with him, I just remember the two of us, I was like this, and he was like, hmm. And within 5 minutes, he knew that I got it. And we were like, yeah,
well,
okay.
you are a different speaker
So are you
of
are you all
interviews.
lesbians? I was like, and he
Maybe
would just look
it
at
doesn't
me like,
matter.
right. So,
That's the magic of a name.
right,
Guess.
right. But because of my journalistic background, I could talk to someone like Chuck Klosterman and not, you know, say stuff like that I feared would be, not so
Right.
happily received when you see it in giant letters under your picture.
I think that's a huge thing, and I've always that was one of the questions for like the longest time after the last time we spoke. I'm like, oh, we never talked about that. Now, when I first started the show, I was like, I wanted the show. I don't consider myself a journalist. I'm not like into writing, and because I have autism, it's hard for me to communicate
Mhm.
And talking to people is never a big thing, but music was like my trains. Okay. But what I hate is clickbait, not talking to an artist. I never liked that. And I'm like, so when podcasting came at a small level, I would just go for music and I would just go, I have a degree in recording, back analog. I was splicing things and then the industry changed.
All right.
I have a
Cool.
degree in video. So, I mean, I'm not like totally out of it. I interned for like Relativity in Effect Records when we did like Steve Vai and Satriani and stuff. And I got to some
Yeah.
experience. So I've done a lot of stuff prior to changing life. So when COVID happened, I'm like, I got to do something in a way. I'm going to honor the artists. Like I never monetize my channel, even at this point. I make no money. I still pay for my Zoom. I literally just want to say, I love these bands and let's do it. Now, that being said, I've got a gift that I never looked at because I didn't want to be a media person and having autism. I started just talking to Weasel Zappa or whatever, or a few ideas and it just rolled, you
Yeah.
know, talking to the Sex Pistols, like in the first couple episodes, one of the Sex Pistols. I mean, so it got really big, but the communication became different. It became a introspective study of human beings
Mm.
and the other side. And as it went on, I wanted to stress the other side that the artists went through. Not because the artists aren't going to cry about it because it's weird, but I also wanted to be the one holding the flag, saying, "Look, these are all the things they do, A, B, C, D, to get to here, especially at this point.
Yeah.
Go to the website, get this." So I was always trying to advocate now because I want to support something I love. With that being said, what I've got out of it is, and this is the journalistic part that always made me want to think about it, is like when you're a journalist and you talk to people or whatever you are, your perspective on people changes. And the
Mhm.
longer you do it, and the way people talk and the mannerisms, it's made me a whole different person. Like I speak in probably like I've spoken like not I still have issues, but I'm like hundreds and hundreds of people, 500 people, like huge people around the world, right? And people always go, "Well, isn't it? How could you do that?" I'm like, I don't know, I just use words. People are people, and you also learn who's skilled at what. Like when you talk to certain bands, when you were doing your interviews, you could tell who was schooled by PR, who's not schooled, who's been so schooled that they don't even need to do the tools. I think there's a point where early bands just say whatever. And I think some bands that get schooled now, they're like, use your hands. Say the interview's name a few times. Just saying. It's not a bad thing.
Okay.
I've caught on to patterns. This is what I'm saying. I can catch on. And then
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
certain level of artists that
Sure.
get beyond that. Like this is like you with interviews. It's just not even anything. You know what to say. It's comfortable. You know what not to say. And it's just normal talk. That's the talks I get from like Stephen Pearcy from Rat, who's done it for a long time. Dweezil Zappa, who's like one of the best public speakers ever. Besides being a musician, he's like one of the best teachers and speakers ever. Like I
Yeah.
said, the way we're talking now, you're aware of what to say, what not to say. That's not a given. And I don't
Right.
know, once again, the minutia of people doing podcasts or listening are aware of that behind the scenes.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's
Sorry it was
so
so long, but
much,
to get it out.
there's so much that goes on to get someone to a certain point. That's so all the tools, just like you said, are useful, even if it's whatever it is, learning to, you know, uh, keep a budget or learning to, speak publicly or whatever. Um, and so it's complicated, all you see, most people, all they see is the show and the flash and the guitars and the
Yeah.
drums and think that, oh, they're having the time of their lives, and then they're going to go and they're going to party all night and wreck a hotel room, and they're going to go in there. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of work just to get to be that kind of player, sloppy or
Hmm.
not, it's whatever you are,
Right.
it's just to be that kind of player that can step on a stage and you know give it,
Hmm.
just share it with everything, let loose, play with that kind of confidence and uh power. um that's a road that takes a long time.
Do you think because I also think one of the best things about you, I have a joke, is that you start the band so you can just find a good job where you can wear your favorite clothes because bell bottoms are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like, so like I used to joke about taking kung fu. I'm like, I want to become a kung fu teacher just because I like the clothes. It was so comfortable. You pick the cool clothes. Not like to be like in Led Zeppelin, type band. I'm like, God, they have the best clothes ever. Why would you not want to be good? No, but on a serious note, do you think that you've gone through some of the same levels though of like the earlier years of doing it because you knew the music, you're going into it differently, but the long road, that's why bands change after 2 or 3 albums because it's like the first album or whatever coming in, you can be more, there's more a band and there's more focus on the music. But the long game is about there's a burnout, just like anything, just like in podcasting and TV or whatever. You have to pull away and you have to do something totally different. You have to recharge your batteries. You got to say, no, nowadays it'd be like, no, I don't need TikTok. I can just do a YouTube video once in a while. Like, where are your lines? Because all you have are people telling you, you need to do this, you need to do this. Nowadays would be all different media, and you don't need all that. You
Right,
know, and I'm the one who always saying to people, I'm like, people, relax. You don't need all that. Take that time for yourself. Go read a book. Go for a walk. Take your kids out. Whatever. You know,
right,
you don't need all
right.
that. Do you think you felt that's the early years and then to the struggle of not doing the burnout? Because there's always ebb and flow. Band members changing. I mean, those are the harder in between years that people think, oh, they're just playing Led Zeppelin. It's easy flow.
Oh, for sure. I think that it's been a roller coaster. Um, very highs, very lows. Um, the highs have been almost incredible. Like we couldn't have dreamt of stuff that some of the stuff that happened. But the low points that I had to, sort of maneuver through, I don't even know how I continued to do it. There were times I just, and it's not just that the music was, how are we going to play it and having to relearn all these songs with a new band. I mean, train somebody, it's formidable, but just everything about it, the burnout is real. I mean, it's a real thing, and it's very um taxing on not on you physically, mentally, on your families, like you were saying at the beginning, all of that stuff. And I think that at the end of the day, you're constantly you get to a point where you're like, do I really still love this? Is this, I
Right.
mean, and if I do, what do I love about it? And what am I going to try to do more of? Or, what am I going to try not do anymore? Um, and you make those decisions, like, for me, it was really, really important as I move forward to make sure that the people in the band were happy being in the band, really loved
Yeah.
this thing. And, right now, the way the band is, it's the ultimate expression of that. Maybe, except for the very first lineup,
Mhm. Do you?
I think, so it's come full circle. And that
Right.
energizes me. If they're energized, if they really want it, then I get back on the horse, then I'm like fine rediscovering the joy of it. Because it's about
I
playing with other people.
Oh, I think so. And I mean, that's one of the things I never realized, and I always want to emphasize to people I didn't even think about when I was starting the show. You know, and I go back to we were talking about Frank is, you say, the plane, the door, the window. Like, how are you going home? Because it's not about having. Obviously, he had good musicians, but it's not. Once you're at that level, who are you going to be on the road with? Who are you going to tour with?
Oh, for
And I
sure.
never thought about the balance of like, this guy's a rock star, but really, yeah, Steve Vai is a great musician, and he's not going to be destroying stuff. You know what I'm saying? Who are you going to get in there that are
Right,
good musicians?
right,
Now, as a musician nowadays, that's a challenge for somebody to do, to find somebody that's good, that's also not a knucklehead, you know? And they gotta be good, and they gotta be on the same wavelength, and you gotta sit in the bus for 23 hours or whatever you're traveling with them, and you gotta say, look, this is a hotel room we're getting, because if you're heading
yeah,
everything, there's a lot of
yeah,
times you're doing a lot of scheduling, and you're like, and everybody's fetching and complaining about certain things, and you're like, come on, I'm literally just want to be the guitar player, but someone's got to do other grown-up stuff. Cut me
right,
some slack.
right.
You don't have to. I'm not saying the members now or anything. I'm not. I don't like. I don't really know about the history.
Totally
I'm
right.
just
It's
saying
just their
as a band
responsibility.
leader,
Yeah, for
I've heard enough.
sure. It's what my sound guy for many, many years said once, the joke, how do you tell who's the band leader? Like it's all the arrows sticking out of her back. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I'm sure there's a whole club of like we hate Steph club.
Oh,
I
I don't
don't
know
know,
about that.
but there it comes a point where it's just it's difficult, and that magic combination of
Mhm.
amazing musician and nice person is it's tough,
And I
especially
want to say something about that
and
though.
then they have to be all girls too. So you're narrowing the field. It's nuts.
But it's as a person leading a band, and generally I think it's true as I've talked to, and this is I'm going to say in reference to you, it's what I hate Steph Club is when you're doing the band, you have to think of things a way a lot of people don't think about nowadays. They usually think about themselves like they're like in some stupid reality show, which makes me crazy. Like it's them, the star. It's always pictures and stuff. I'm guilty of putting pictures of my dog up on the page because I think he's adorable, or some stupid joke. But I don't think the world's about me. But like a lot of people, like everything's like you're building this world about yourself. I think that's become the thing. And if as a person, you can kind of do that. How this affects you, how this affects you. When you're leading a band,
Mm,
you're definitely looking at the trees from above. You're looking at the world. Two different views. It's a luxury to be able to just think that you're the only person on the planet and the world's just going around you.
mm,
So it's not really a fair thing, you know. I think if a lot of other members of bands or just in life and just in general look outside of whoever's leading, look who's leading, what they're doing. There's five other people on that team, whether it's at work or whatever I'm saying. There's so much more than just you. And then they got to
yeah,
find a balance of it
yeah, yes.
and cut them some
It's
slack because it's more than just
it's a
you.
hard line, and of course, everyone you the whole point is that everyone feels, you know, that they love this thing you're doing and that they're part
Mhm.
of it in a special way. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So it's a
Right.
very tenuous thing sometimes because it's just hard to, as a band, someone who leads a band, you do have to have that perspective on what's going to, what's going to increase the stock of the band in the long term.
Yeah.
Um, but also how to make sure everyone is
Happy.
happy and feeling this and feeling that. And it's I guess any person who has to manage any endeavor or company or anything like that has that, but it's hard. And art is so the arts, it's everyone's and everything is so emotional. So maybe it's multiplied because everyone you're dealing with artists and people are sensitive,
Right.
emotional. I can't, there are things I have trouble handling. Like it just freaks me out and makes me all upset when, maybe, you know, you just go and you do it if you're more of a straight ahead business
Right.
person. But
I
it's
think I would joke about that. Be like, if say my kids wanted to be going to music or whatever, I'd be like, I'd give them the bundle of like DVDs or whatever they do format of behind the music behind the music to watch, and then send them to some psychology classes and say, oh, the music's important too, but these are some things you really might want to be aware of.
yeah, 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 exactly. Good
It's like a
point.
second of encyclopedias here.
Yes.
And take some psychology because that's really what you're going to need to do,
Yeah,
with dealing
yeah,
with people.
yeah.
So we'll lead everybody to go to your web page because all the dates and stuff are coming up. I think I'm gonna try seeing you in Bristol. I think you have a show in Bristol coming up.
Well, I hope so.
I think it's in
We're in New
October, so
England a
October is
lot,
good.
Sean, so you just let me know.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Well, yeah, I'll let you know. I think it's like the fourth. I'll have to check. I think it's your physical graffiti
I
one.
should have the schedule at my fingertips. But
No, it's all
it's
right. I actually have it up over here. I have a
oh
screen over
good.
here. I'm not
It's on our
looking.
website under touring and it's right
Yeah,
there. It's
you have a great
online.
website too. I always like to give props to websites because sometimes they're ghost towns. Some people start them. Websites are started and YouTube pages with the best of intent, and they just go. Most social media started with the best of intentions. Yeah, you got the homepage has updates, and then you got it's a cool picture. Band information, tour, music.
Tour.
It's
Yeah, if
all
you
you got
go on
everything
the
there.
tour, you'll find
Yeah,
the date.
yeah. Let's see. So you start touring on. Some people aren't in front of you. Your next show is September 20th in Red Hook, New York,
Yep.
and
It's a
then you go on
outdoor festival thing.
a couple of shows. You got the Cut Live, and then yeah,
Little
it's
festival.
the Bristol show is October 4th.
Mhm.
That's pretty close to me. I'm right outside of Hartford, so I'm pretty close to a lot of your shows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'm
Good.
coming down. Um, but to that point, I do want to say also, I don't want to give back some of your time. I thank you for sharing with me. It's always fun to talk to you, supporting you. You mentioned doing some writing and putting some stuff together.
Mhm.
You working on some stuff or anything you want to direct people to?
I am. Thank you for asking. Yes, the first thing which I can share with everybody, hopefully very soon, is where we've got a book. We just call it the coffee table book, but it's called um, Becoming Lez Zeppelin 20 Years Gone. With hats off to the latest documentary, in case you haven't
Which was
seen.
great. I loved it.
Amazing, amazing. Um, so that will be out soon, and that's like a mostly pictorial retrospective, but I've done a lot of the writing in there,
Mhm.
so there's some stories and stuff like that. But I've written one novel and um am probably will be published soon. I can't say anything about that quite
Is
yet.
it history, fact-based,
Oh no,
pure
it's
fiction?
fiction. Fiction.
Okay, okay, just
And I'm working on another novel too. But I've written all sorts of stuff, but fiction, and that's kind of where I'm at right
okay.
now. So I'm working on something else.
Where would people find these? Obviously, I don't expect you to announce everything now, but where would you gonna post it that people would know it's out?
Um, well, we'll probably, once there's definite news about any of those things, we'll post it definitely on our socials, but it's ledzeppelin.com. We
Hmm.
have Instagram, Led
But I mean,
Zeppelin.
actually, your stuff, your stuff. Are you gonna keep it
Mine.
separate?
Well, right now, I used to have a website, but I sort of neglected
Ghost
it.
Town, Ghost Towned it? You
I'm
mean?
not really good at that stuff.
I
I
just
just,
said the best of intentions. There's just so much to do.
well, it's also, I'm not, the self-promotion thing is not my forte. Should ask my assistant. I'm just terrible at that. I'm
I'm
just,
high about that too. That's why
ugh.
my Instagram is just like dogs and not artists.
So
It's
she
like
pushes me.
Instagram.
She's like,
Yeah.
get it. But we'll see. It will, it,
Let me
I
know. Let me know. And if
keep
you want to
looking
do
going.
something to
If
promote
they
that
go to
separately,
ledzeppelin.com, or uh maybe there'll be a stephpaynes.com, or maybe there'll be, I do
if not,
Instagram stuff.
let me know. I will
I
promote where
will.
it is at, and I will
I will
welcome you
call
back.
you, and you
Yeah,
can let everybody know.
I will put it there. I will actually read it if you want. We can talk about it too. I will promote that on here also. I will do all things
Fantastic.
Steph Paynes. I will honor it all because I
Absolutely.
I dig the stuff you do.
You, Sean.
That this has been fun as usual. I love our talks, getting
Yep.
geeky, not
Yep.
so factual and other things, but it's kind of fun to talk. And I like
Yes.
sharing your journalistic view because that's something that a lot of people don't get.
Yeah. We could talk
You
more
know,
about that one day. So,
yeah, probably more off the record too.
yeah, off the record. Yes.
I'm gonna say
Yes.
one thing I will say that's very important. I
Off the
think,
record.
right? I don't think artists, and I think podcasters don't do this in a really. I have to say podcasters now, but I do think I didn't like journals do it. That's a perfect example. What you said is they do it to this day is clickbait titles. Which if I was better at clickbait, I'd probably have a bigger show. But I'm big enough because of honesty. Because I feel gross, literally making it. I'll change my titles of a show, be like, oh, it's just so gross. Now that being said, also just the honor of if you're talking to somebody and somebody shares you something, don't share it. Like what you say, if they say it's off the record, you really got to honor it. You can't if you invite somebody for an interview, unless they know what the interview is, unless they're like total scummy trying to really crack something. No one's that Geraldo Rivera, moment. No one's like I'm using it as a joke as a name, but truthfully, like everything's a cracking the big thing. Even other journalists, I'm like, false pretense is not gonna get the interview. The shocked moments are garbage.
Right.
You know, um, it's important to just respect somebody. And if they say something, I have so many things in my head. I probably actually forgotten I have so many things sent to me. I will never share, never, because they say not to.
Right.
And that's just the kind of who you are.
That's a code. It's an ethical code, and hopefully
Never. I've heard so
people
many
say,
things, and I'm like, even if that person like just did hate me all of a sudden, I would still never share because I made a promise, which is important to them and to me. It's who I
yeah,
am.
for sure.
But a lot of people don't do that, and it makes me freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody follows the code. It just keep your mouth shut.
Well, journalism is a dying art.
It's about being a human being. That's a dying art.
Yeah. My
You
parents
know?
were journalists. My dad went to J school, and the whole concept of who, what, where, why, and when, and getting
Yeah.
facts with as little editorial as possible is a thing of the past. I'm not sure it exists anymore.
I don't think so either. I mean, I struggle just to put
Sad.
together an honest
Very
show
sad because it's
of people just
important.
talking.
It's really
Yeah.
important, but it's sad. Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
that's
I mean,
another conversation.
no, but I do want to say, but yeah, it is. But I do want to say, thank you for your candor because I think probably you've said a few things that you don't always say in interviews, like as far as like how you feel, and we may have touched upon things that maybe people get some perspective of what it's like to lead a band, what it's like to do with the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much to leading a band that when you hear things about trashy things on the internet, not about you in general, but I'm just saying in general,
Mm,
you gave an example of there's so much other stuff going on.
yeah.
Just go see the band then. Like, don't think it's all they're a slave driver. It's honestly, it's rock and roll, and you're playing guitar, you're playing bass or drums. Don't do it. There's other jobs. Just shut up. To the band members, I'm like, that's a band business thing, and a couple of things back and forth. But really, if you're gonna complain so much, just move on. Start your own band. You lead your own band. Obviously, do it. Go for it.
And people do, that ultimately that's, what it comes down to. And like anything,
Yeah.
it's just the way that it is. And you have to kind of meet each challenge head on. And, hopefully you find compatriots who want to jump on the great wave
Yep.
with and have as much fun and really dive in and ride surf like you do. So
I do. Steph,
to keep a
thank you very
metaphor
much.
going.
No, that's good. I'm gonna make some shirts up with that afterwards.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. This has been
Sean,
awesome. Thank you. I
you're
appreciate
great.
it.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
so
much.
much. And
Thank
we'll
you.
do it again, I hope.
We will.
Okay.
Yeah.